G'day folks. Well, over the years we have filmed hundreds of incredibly talented people across the world. Many of these artists have gone on to produce their own videos as well. We hope you enjoy this great lesson from one of our Colour in Your Life artists.
Hi everyone, welcome to my studio in Yeppoon, Queensland, Australia. It's great to have you visit with me in this part of the world. It's my privilege to be a part of the Colour in Your Life team, and today I'm going to be talking about a media that is very close to my heart, and that is pastel. There are so many different sorts of pastels available to pastelists now. And of course, like all things, the more you pay for them, the better off you are. That's where there's more pigment and less binder. And my little collection has taken some years to gather, and I'm still adding to it. I must say that I started out with a box of 60 sticks of Rembrandt pastels initially. That was some, I think, 25 years ago that I started with that, and within a week, I do not tell a lie, within a week I was down to the local art supplier looking for some more colours, and I was fortunate that they had a number of other brands there at the time. And so every time I started a painting, I'd run off down to the art supply shop and grab a few more pastels, and I built up my collection in that way. Then of course I started travelling to the International Pastel Convention, which happens every second year over in Albuquerque in America and in New Mexico, and that has a trade show. Well, what do you do at a trade show? You buy some more pastels. I've got a number of favourites, however, that I use, and I would like to talk about those just now. Within my collection, I have a number of different ones. I've got Unison, and Unison has a terrific range of reds and yellows in particular. Some lovely colours. Yellow number 13 being one of my favourites, and a very, very useful colour. But they're made in the UK, and they're always consistently good. Love them to pieces. I also have a collection of Terry Ludwig pastels. Terry Ludwig is an artist in America, and he has come up with his own beautiful range of colours, and particularly delightful are he's got two dark sets of intensified darks. This is not it. I've sort of mixed it all up. But I would always recommend, if you're starting out in pastels, or if you've been on the pastel journey a very long time, if you haven't got the Terry Ludwig's intensified darks, then it's something that you should look at. They're lovely and rich and velvety, and they deliver extremely well on the surface. Art Spectrum here in Australia have come up with a new type of pastel. These are what they call their extra soft pastels, and I find them quite delightful. They also have their set of soft tinted whites, which are always an almost must-have in any pastelist kit. They deliver very well on the paper, they play well with all the other pastels, and that's always a good thing. I really like the fact that they are square as well, similar to Terry Ludwig's shape. That's very sculptural. You can make very sculptural marks with that sort of shape. Another favourite has become Jack Richardson's. Jack Richardson's pastels are relatively new in the marketplace. Got a terrific range of brights, but I particularly love their grade set. The grade set is just delicious. Now, to me, I'm always looking for grade-off colours because they're the things that will make my brights pop, and my brights will look incredibly electric when put next to the grade-off colours. So that particular set of greys by Jack Richardson is just incredible. For the same reason, I also like Holbein. Holbein is a pastel that is a little square, longer than this. It's a broken piece, slightly harder, but like a Rembrandt. It is still classified as a soft pastel, but it's the harder end of the soft pastels. The fact that it has little square edges also makes it incredibly controllable for doing fine marks. Mind you, you can do a fine mark with any of your soft pastels as long as you press incredibly lightly. You can do an extremely fine line. But Holbein has a good range of greens, which as a floral painter is very, very useful. The other brand that has terrific colours too is Sennelier. Now this is a half stick of Sennelier. Sennelier used to be called the Rolls-Royce of pastels. They're a French pastel, and they were one of the first makers of pastel in Paris. I think it was 1740 or 1780 I think it was. I'll have to check on that, or you can check on it yourself. But they were one of the first makers of pastels in Paris. And they have a terrific range of all kinds of colours, particularly some of the brights, some of their greens. And one of my favourite and most useful is Sennelier 179, which is a very, very dark blue-green, incredibly useful for a floral painter. The first earliest makers of pastel was a fellow called Honoré Chez. He was making pastels for the fellas like Edward Degas and co. in Paris. Now his, I don't know how many times removed, great niece is now still making pastels in the same way that he made them all those years ago. She's still working in Paris, and you can go to Honoré Chez's shop on an art. There is one day that is Artist Day, or you can ring and make your appointment to go and see these delightful draws of colour in her shop in Paris. I really love her reds. Her reds are so intense. The pigmentation is powerful, and you can put it on and the pigmentation will go for a long way with a bit of a swipe of your hand. Another favourite is the Great American Pastel. The Great American Artworks pastel, very, very, very silky smooth. And they have a wonderful range of portrait pigments. I enjoy using them. I enjoy the squareness of the shape of the pastel. Again, very sculptural. But in particular, I enjoy their portrait colours that have the greyed off tones that so often appear in our flesh colours. What else have I got? And my other favourite, because of the size of them, is Giraud. Now Giraud, this is a shortened version because I've been using it, also comes in these wonderful little sticks, and that makes them incredibly manageable. And they deliver well on the paper. They've got a great range of colours, and they're coming into their own again. Giraud has been around a mighty long time as well, similar to Honoré Chez and Sennelier. Giraud's been around for a long time, and it's now, because of our sanded surfaces that I'll be talking about in a minute, it's very useful for sanded surfaces because it's a little bit more controllable because of its size and the density of the pastel. There are also many different types of surfaces available to us as pastelists. You can actually pastel on anything as long as it's got a little bit of tooth to grip the pastel. For example, you couldn't pastel on baking paper, wouldn't work. But you can pastel on sandpaper from the hardware store, but it's not archivally sound. However, you can get sanded surfaces that are archivally sound. The first paper I'll talk about, though, is one that's been around for a very long time, and this is Canson Maitien. And this is literally a paper, and it has a smooth side and a rougher side to it. I tend to use the smoother side. It still will take heaps and heaps of pastel. The reason being that I don't really like the little regular dotty side on the other side, the aspect that it gives in the finished product. I like the smoother bit. I tend to use this for portraits, although I've started using a lot of the sanded ones as well, but this one particularly I like the way the pastel glides across the surface of this. It comes in a variety of colours, as does Art Spectrum. Art Spectrum has a number of different types of paper. One is colour fixed. This is quite a sanded surface. I would use that for maybe landscapes or seascapes, anything like that. A very utilitarian paper, and it comes in a bigger size, obviously. This is just a little bit of it, and it comes in a variety of colours. There's also Art Spectrum has a newer one out called Smooth, Colour Fix Smooth. I love this for doing portraits. I like the way the pastel glides across it. You do have to be careful with the weight of your hand not to fill the tooth too rapidly, because being a smoother surface, you do have to watch that. Now with these three papers, I like to pad my board, the backing board behind with them, and that will help to be able to develop a deeper depth of pastel on the surface, just by putting maybe 3 sheets of other pastel paper underneath. It just allows you to really paint with your pastel. Not quite so necessary with your sanded surfaces. Fisher 400 is amongst one of my favourite surfaces to work on. There's a difficulty with working on a very light surface like this is that you have to put everything in. You have to put your light values, your mid values and your dark values. Whereas if you do start with a mid value colour, then you only really have to look at going lighter and darker, and the mid value unites the whole composition together. You can, however, because the surface is so robust and strong, you can certainly use a liquid underpainting, and that can be done using artist odorless solvent. You put your pastel down and then you take some solvent on a brush and you push the pastel into the surface of the paper. And that means that you can either start with an underpainting that will help your end composition, or just a straight colour that will change what you're starting with. There's plenty of times, however, that I just start with the white and put in all of the colours and all of the values that I'm seeing, and I find that it gives a clarity to my work. Once upon a time I never did florals, for example, in pastel, because I didn't believe that I could achieve the same luminescence and luminosity that I could in oils. I proved myself wrong when I started working on white paper, and now I'm finding all kinds of methods to achieve the same outcome. There's another new, relatively new surface on the market too, from China, called Ming Art paper. And I do like working on this paper. It allows me both to blend with my finger and then still lay over stroke over the top of the blending. It will take a lot of pastel and allows me to do detail that I love to do, and lends itself to all kinds of approaches to pasteling. This particular surface is Sennelier Pastel Card. It's a fun one, and I like to use it for my en plein air work because it's got a great range of colours to begin with. This along with your Art Spectrums and any of the other pastel papers, of course. But this just gives a slightly different texture. You do have to be careful, however, that not to get anything wet or liquid near this. So don't be out on site in a rainstorm, it'll wash off. The final surface that I really do enjoy working with is ampersand board, pastel board. Now this is the beginning of a composition, and here the board itself is literally a board, a compound, like a masonite type of compound, but it's fully sealed and it has a surface baked onto the top. Very, very rigid. You can use your underpainting, wet underpainting with alacrity. It will allow you to blend and then put stroke over the top to do all kinds of applications. It's a beaut one. Ampersand pastel board. Now I hope I've whet your appetite for pastels. And if you want to join me at any time for workshops, I do numerous workshops across Australia and internationally. And if you want to look at where I'm teaching and what I am teaching anywhere in the world, go to my website www.lyndiefenbach.com and you'll find all of the information there along with the contact details. But what I'd like to draw your attention to in particular are my paintaways for 2019. First of all, in March 2019, I'm working with Artival and we're going to Tasmania. And that is on the 6th to the 10th of March. Now this will not be a plein air workshop. This will be a teaching workshop of pastels, florals and portraits. So welcome, come along to that one. You will be treated stupendously, both with food, with the place that you're staying with, and your learning. The next workshop I want to draw your attention to is one that I'm doing in the Northwest Pacific, over in the States, way up in the top on an island called Marrowstone Island. Now, this is for 5 people only, so you're like getting one-on-one mentorship almost, and it goes from June 22nd to the 28th, and you'll be able to use both your pastels, your watercolours, your oils if you so desire. We'll be doing a lot of on plein air work, but also studio work, doing portraits, florals, whatever you would like to investigate and have my help with. The next one is in Haute-Baron in France, and that's a 10-day workshop, and it's from July 5th to the 14th. It will be a pastel workshop. We will be working on plein air, and we'll also be working in the studio doing all of the other subjects that I love to paint and love to teach. The final one for next year is on Norfolk Island, October the 1st to the 8th, and that again will be an on plein air workshop, and we'll be able to take in the wonderful sights of Norfolk Island. So I hope to see you somewhere in the world, both the rest of this year and in 2019, and in the meantime, happy painting.